We didn't concede a single goal in October. That's just a phenomenal stat, isn't it?
But we're just like a very efficient dry clean, isn't it? Because we always do clean sheets. That's it.
I'm so used to the soft underbelly talk about Arsenal, the weak mentality talk about Arsenal, the lack of physicality to deal with the Premier League, the boys against men, all these narratives that came through. So I, probably more than most, am really enjoying that this is the way Arsenal are finding a way.
And if you score, as I said, 9 times out of 10 you're going to go and win the game.
I don't speak for every Arsenal fan, but most that I speak to, I love Mikel Arteta. And there is no doubt in my mind that he is the man to carry on leading this club.
It's ours to lose. That's how the pressure's coming now. This team is just about that belief, and there's a collective belief now.
City look the most balanced team, but I rate Liverpool's players a bit more. I think they've just got a bit more firepower even though Haaland's over there.
I think there's a hunger that's gone from Liverpool.
Hello, I'm Nick Bright and welcome to Inside Gooners with talkSPORT Bet. Well, it's another week and another win for the Arsenal. 1-0 against Crystal Palace. Eberechi Eze against his former club. And joining me this week, of course, is Perry Groves. And a warm welcome, the first time to the show, to James Bayliss. Hello, mate.
Mate, thank you so much.
Debut. Didn't realise it was debut.
Yeah, debut. No, thanks for having me. Genuine honour to be on the show.
Just get
so
your
thank
first
you.
sentence in, first.
Yeah, just get that out of the way.
Down, you'll be all right.
And then we'll relax. We can talk about Arsenal things.
We haven't got a cap for you or anything like that. You know, like when you get an England cap, there's nothing like that.
Heritage.
Yeah. The budget didn't go that far.
No, I appreciate having me on. Thank you, guys. Looking forward to talking after a win. I think if it'd been anything else, gets a bit tricky, doesn't it? But, yeah.
I worry about that every time I'm asked to do the show. I'm like, because so far I've been on every time after a win. So maybe keep asking me on, guys. But I worry that, one time I'm going to come in, we're going to have to dissect a loss. But thankfully with this team, I mean, it doesn't look likely. So let's start, of course, with the performance on Sunday. Perry, will come to you. A moment of magic was the difference. It came from a set piece, but the finish from Eberechi Eze against his former club, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's exactly what he was bought for. Exactly that, because last season, sometimes we struggled for a little bit of creativity, a bit of imagination. And the thing that I love about Eze, we've said before, is he's a street footballer. He learnt in South London in the cages where he was like 11 playing against 15, 16-year-olds. So you see that when he's on the ball, you see how technical he is in the way that he got. But that technique, which was like the hitch kicks volley, he knew you have to read it as well, because obviously Wharton's marking him, so you have to read it. Gabriel obviously knocks it back into the danger area, but then because he's a bit close to it, that's why he has to bring that sort of athleticism to it. And if there was one player on the pitch you wanted to drop to, it'd have been him to execute that volley. And I thought Arteta was quite interesting after when he said he liked his celebration, because he still celebrated, but it was still respectful. I hate it when players don't celebrate at all. It does my head in. Don't wear it. Even if it's your club you're playing against, if they wanting you to go, you should be running around, flipping, throwing your shirt everywhere in the place.
But I mean, I guess the relationship that he had with Crystal Palace, that the fans didn't want him to leave. I think we chatted about this on the last one, didn't we? Declan Rice's relationship with the West Ham supporters is slightly different. Eberechi Eze, he's got that good relationship with the Crystal Palace fans and that respectful relationship, but it was nice to see him, even though it was muted, he still did the little cross thing, he still, exactly, he still did his usual thing that he does when he scores, but it was a bit more muted.
I think it was quite classy for the Palace fans to give him a nice round of applause. It was quite nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, and his first goal for Arsenal at the Emirates. You know, it's like, it must be difficult in that moment, because you're thinking of everything he's achieved with Palace, just won them the FA Cup, but he's also probably thinking, I've just scored for the club I've wanted to play for. In my first goal, what ended up a winner. So it must be hard to sort of, keep it calm in that moment, but fair play to him.
Well, we also know that Eze is somebody who's very God-fearing, he believes in a higher power, and it's almost like he was meant to score against Crystal Palace, because I can't remember who it was against, but he missed a gilt-edged chance against someone earlier on in the season, which should have been his first goal.
Who was that? West Ham.
Over
the bar. Yeah. That was a big miss.
But his first goal for Arsenal in the Premier League comes against Crystal Palace. I mean, it was written. But the 1-0 win on Sunday, it means, James, that we didn't concede a single goal in October. That's just a phenomenal stat, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a phenomenal stat, and it feels like people don't want us to enjoy it, because they're talking about our style of football and things like that. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying because I It's a bit sad. I kind of became an Arsenal fan around 2006. Champions League final was my first game. I'm so used to the soft underbelly talk about Arsenal, the weak mentality talk about Arsenal, the lack of physicality to deal with the Premier League, the boys against men, all these narratives that came through. So I, probably more than most, am really enjoying that this is the way Arsenal are finding a way. And I still think, we'll obviously talk about that. I think there's great football being played throughout the season. But I'm enjoying that there's a way we're doing it that's kind of going against, well, you all said we were this, and we're going to show you we're not. Coming from a manager in Mikel Arteta, who was a part of those teams, playing with more lightweight players, who, by the way, I loved, technical brilliance, and I loved watching them. But him kind of driving and instilling this style in Arsenal, getting clean sheets, showing fight, and finding a way when we're not playing well, I'm enjoying it, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, what did you make, Perry, of the performance? Because I have to say, I was watching it on telly. I wasn't lucky enough to be at the game, but I was getting quite frustrated because, honestly, I don't think we played that well, but we still got the win.
Yeah, but we're just like a very efficient dry cleaners, because we always do clean sheets. That's it. But the thing is, I knew when, against Palace, we spoke to it before, you play like Fulham away, Atletico Madrid at home, Palace at home, right? They're 3 difficult games, right? And you said, right, you keep 3 clean sheets and you'll win all 3. You just snatch your hands off beforehand. I'm not really bothered by the way we play, honestly, because it's so early on in the season. We know there's different levels that we can get to, because Palace are difficult. I know it's the 3-4-2-1, but it's not out of possession. They're 5-4-1, and they're very well disciplined, and they all work. So I thought maybe in the first 15-20 minutes we probably didn't move the ball as quickly as what I would like us to. There was a couple of mistakes where we gave it away, which then enticed them onto us. Like Zubimendi was caught in possession a couple of times. But what happens is, and I was lucky enough to play in a team in 1991 where we were the nearly invincibles, because Tony Allen was in prison, so it was his fault, so I blamed him. But we only conceded 18 goals that season, and they know when they're playing. When we scored, that the opposition have a dip, like their body language goes, and you can see it in their eyes where they think, we ain't scoring 2. And it's such a psychological advantage to have when you go 1-0 up, because teams put so much into stopping you from scoring, which they did. Then it's like, right, have you got that energy then to break out and score against us? And when they do, then we're going to have the players with the flair, with like Saka and Eze and Odegaard, do you know what I mean, with the imagination that you're going to take advantage. So it's a weird thing. When you're 1-0 up, you always expect the opposition to come at you, and the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you'll sit back. Didn't happen against Fulham, and didn't happen against Crystal Palace. And we were probably a bit lucky that they played on the Thursday, so their energy levels and the emotional investment they had on the Thursday just dropped a little bit. But it's the 1-0. I love the 1-0 to the Arsenal. It's got a very good ring about it.
Yeah. It's got a decent song as well, I guess, you know what I mean? It is very interesting, though, just looking at this starting 11, James, because there's a lot of focus, as always, on Viktor Gyökeres. And I know he's not necessarily getting on the score sheet, but he's doing a job. A lot of people are talking about the fact that because he's this powerful number 9, that means we're getting more space out wide, because, central defenders aren't being dragged out wide because they're worried about Viktor Gyökeres.
Yeah. The summer was that big debate, wasn't it? Sesko, Gyökeres, and other strikers made moves like Ekitike, Voltemade, who weren't really linked with Arsenal. And a lot of them very technical, very good footballers. And I think there's a little bit of a sense of, whether other avenues we could have gone down. I really like Gyökeres, and I wasn't completely sold when the links were there. But I see a player who, don't get me wrong, of course there's moments where the move slightly breaks down with him, but there's this kind of relentless tenacity about him. He's constantly running the channels, and late in that game, so I was very lucky to be at the game, and I don't know if sometimes you get a slightly different perspective, certainly on things like work rate and how much players are running. But I was watching it thinking, oh my word, we are just booting that ball in the channel and hoping he gives us an out ball or buys us a couple minutes. And yeah, it didn't always stick, it didn't always work, but largely I quite liked what he did. In that first 20-30 minutes, we were not getting through Palace. So Saliba lumps one over the top, Gyökeres beats the defender physically, gets the ball, makes his way around before rolling it, I think, to Zubimendi, and Trossard gets a shot. But we couldn't make our way through. So you need someone who's a willing runner to give you just something else. And I know it sounds a bit basic, like just running the channels, but I actually think we've lacked that over the years. We've lacked different ideas to get through a team. I like what he's doing. He's working incredibly hard. He's a part of a team that are showing the most consistency in the league. So as far as I'm aware, I'm happy with what he's giving. I want to see more, but I'm happy.
He's our top scorer.
Yeah, well, that's true.
He's got 5 goals, right?
Yeah.
But if you think when Henry first came over, he struggled for the first 9-10 games. Perez struggled the first 9-10 games. So what he does as well is, even in the first half when he's engaging centre halves and he's giving space to work, but by keep running in the channels, the centre halves, honestly, when you think, oh God, he ain't going to run in the channel again. And what you do is, with the work that he puts in, you reap the rewards it again in the last 20-25 minutes, because you keep going in the channels, then the game gets a bit more stretched, then people get spaces. So his work ethic is second to none.
Yeah.
He will gradually grow into it. And then there's Chelsea fans that I spoke to. When Didier Drogba went to Chelsea, I think he got 10 goals the first season, Premier League goals, 12 the second, when they won the title. No one says anything, because you won the title. I don't care.
No one remembers, no one cares. It's interesting about Gyökeres, actually, because I'm intrigued to see what will happen when Kai Havertz is fit again, because you mentioned just there about the game getting stretched and Gyökeres continuing to run into the channels. Defenders don't like it. I like to see what happens when Kai Havertz is fit. If Kai Havertz starts a game and then we give Gyökeres half an hour at the end against a tired defence, how different that may look and feel.
Yeah, but also what happens is, it looks like Kai Havertz is going to be fit after the international break. He gives you something different. So what'll happen is, Arteta, which I like at the minute because he's rotating more and he's resting players, there'll be games where he says to Gyökeres, all right, you've played 3 or 4 on the trot, you can have a little rest. We'll put Kai Havertz in. Kai Havertz gives you something different because he still engages centre halves, but he's brilliant at actually holding it up. And as how many times you see it sort of roll down his body, or he flicks it on, or he goes out in the wide areas and creates like 2v1s. Yeah. So you've got all these different options. And there'll be a time as well, by the way, it's going all right for us a minute, where we're going to have to force a goal, right? And they'll both play. I guarantee you that Arteta will put both of them through the middle for a period of time. You know what I mean? Last 20-25 minutes.
Prime Arsene Wenger style, bringing on all the attackers.
Exactly. Just go, right, we're going to go all in, but it will be crosses, creating mayhem. So we're finding ways to win games in a minute, but there'll be other times where we are going to have to press and we're going to have to try and force something. So you've got both them options.
It's a good thing for Gyökeres to have Havertz back, because I know we're going to look ahead to Brighton, but off the top of my head, he's probably going to have to start that game. If he doesn't, it's Marino up front. But he had to finish the game against Palace after all the running he did for the first hour. It's like, okay, right, now we've got something to protect. We're going to need a slightly different job from you. And it must just be exhausting. The guy barely had a pre-season. Obviously started at Old Trafford because he looked quite good in those Emirates friendlies. Havertz gets injured. I thought he looked quite good when he came on at Old Trafford. And actually, they should be complementing one another. There's so many games to play. We're looking competitive on all fronts. There's more games in the Champions League than ever before. But Gyökeres is having to front it all up. And don't get me wrong, he looks like he's got the mentality to say, get me on the pitch every time, but that's not always what the player needs. So I think he'll benefit from Havertz returning, even if he is rotated, not dropped, but rotated for some.
Perry, you mentioned kind of, things are going well for us at the moment, but, there may be a blip round the corner. You just don't know. Liverpool obviously having their blip now. We probably will have one at some point in the season. Definitely. But if Kai Havertz does come back, will that just give us something different? Will we find another gear, I guess, that we can stick the gear stick into? I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better analogy, but you know what I mean. Stick us into 6th gear on the motorway and just go.
I think if you look, you've got Madueke come back as well, so he gives you another option. You could actually play Gyökeres up front and Kai Havertz in the inside left channel, because he can play in the Odegaard, like Declan Rice role, a bit forward. And also as well, I don't know if everybody's noticed that we're quite good at set pieces. And Kai Havertz is quite tall. I think apparently you're not allowed to score from set pieces. It doesn't count because it's not easy on the eye. It's not like beautiful football. So, there's the international. We need to get. We said before. Obviously, we talk about Burnley later on, but the position we're in and the narrative's changed. If you listen and read, there's people going, "Oh, I've actually got to admit now, even people don't like us that much. I think Arsenal are going to win it." But what it means is we've put ourselves in a position that the destiny's in our own hands. And that's what Liverpool's position was in last season, where teams are chasing now. But what we've got to do is we just got to be just relentless for this period of time. And then it all settles down round about sort of January time. Yeah. But there's another 2 or 3 gears to go. And I like Arteta's interviews afterwards where he said, I'm pleased with a lot of it, but there's a lot that we can do better. Yeah. And it will be relentless even in training. The standards will be high. These people coming back that want to get in the team. And also as well, because you've got a togetherness, nobody's moaning.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people trying to get back in the team, actually, James, why change a winning team? And the reason I make that statement is because if we carry on winning, our skipper's not in the side at the moment because he's injured. Eze's come into that 10 role and is doing a really decent job. Scored a great goal, as we said, on Sunday. Do you change it to bring Ødegaard back into the team when he is fit?
Well, I think the beauty of Arsenal this season, because I don't agree with this narrative that the football's not been good. I mean, West Ham was okay, but Fulham, who did we just beat? Palace on the weekend, they were a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
But generally, I think Atletico Madrid, I just mentioned that West Ham game, Newcastle away, teams that I thought, we're playing against sides where it's going to be difficult to break them down. I thought the football was good. In terms of changing the winning formula, I think part of the reason the football's been good is because actually there's been an unpredictability about what Arteta's going to do. I remember when he first had all these players available, Forest at home, he went Eze off the left with Ødegaard in the 10. I actually think that is the future. But in Ødegaard's absence, we're thinking, where's he go one area? He goes Eze in the 10. Different type of player in that area of the pitch. Against Atletico Madrid, Lewis Skelly and Martinelli come in, which gave us... stretches the wide players a little bit more with their fullbacks. You've got Lewis Skelly to dominate in central midfield a bit. So all these different options just give us a bit more fluidity, a bit more unpredictability. Teams aren't as ready for it. So I don't think it's so much changing a winning team as much as it's just keeping them on their toes. As long as 8 or 9 are the same week in, week out, and you tweaking in areas, I think it's a benefit to Arsenal.
It's an interesting point, because a lot of people have spoken about Eze on the left, and that's what people were expecting to see when he came into the side, or wanted to see, I guess, because the 10 was locked down by the skipper. So if that's what you're saying you think the future is, what for Leandro Trossard and what for Gabriel Martinelli?
I didn't think of that. Hold on, wait.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because Trossard gets the clutch moments, doesn't he? He's the one at the back post against Fulham, even when he's struggling in the game. He's the one who so often wins us the game at Old Trafford, scores away at these big grounds, equaliser at Stamford Bridge. Martinelli is the one who, probably of all of them, works the hardest. I mean, his work rate's phenomenal, tracks back, and he's also the quickest, so he gives us a back to front element that we don't really have with maybe the others. I just think it's a long season. There will be injuries. There will be moments like Trossard's got the shirt now, but who expected that? Because I don't think he started the first 5 or 6 games. So you just never know. They keep fighting and you change opinions. Martinelli's changing people's opinion massively from last year. People are already going, well, it feels like he deserves his place after Atletico. A year ago, people were thinking probably time to sell him. Even in the summer, people were saying that. So keep fighting for it.
I mean, just play the Champions League music before every game if Martinelli's in the starting lineup, because he seems to love that competition.
I think he's got it in his earpods. So I about that. Like every day, all day.
Well, let's talk about the other end of the pitch. I mean, it's not like we don't focus on how good our defence is as it is, but we've kept 10 clean sheets in 13 games, joint fastest to reach double figures for a top flight English side. Gabriel Heinz has come in to the coaching staff, was a swashbuckling fullback himself. How much of this defensive solidity do you think is down to him joining Arteta's backroom staff?
Yeah, if you read reports and listen to people around the training ground, that all the players like him. They're all engaged him as a person, so that helps you enormously when you're getting your points across. He's left-sided, so we played obviously a left back. So then he's probably more in tune with that side of the pitch. If you look, I think Gabriel's been outstanding. I don't want to put the mocks on too much, but if you look at how many blocks he gets like 3 or 4 blocks on Sunday, where it's last ditch defending and he's just like nicking it off players' toes or whatever.
Celebrates them like a goal as
exactly,
well.
But the thing is, but they're all, we're talking about the back 4, but again, it reminds me of the team I was lucky enough to be part of. We was always 4-4-2. If you look at us when we're out of possession, we're 4-4-2. That's exactly how we set up. Wherever's in that inside left position goes like level with obviously Gyökeres up front, and each player knows how to like shuffle across, knows when to press, knows when to sit back. So it's a collective. Like the back 4, the 2 centre halves we know are probably the best pairing, I think, in probably world football now.
I agree.
So, but then when you get Calafiori in, if he goes in midfield and he knows he's got to obviously get back, Zubimendi has gone sort of a little bit under the radar where he just sits in front, and he's probably the one out of everybody else just sits there, doesn't actually, like, I know obviously he got his 2 goals, but he sits, he doesn't actually take many chances, whereas the people in front of him can do that. So he will sit if Lewis Skelly comes in, he'll just go and occupy that little left-hand side. On the other side, if Timber comes in. So they're all invested. And the thing with us as well is it's not just people that haven't scored. It's been very rarely that David Ray's had to be like an octopus.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's pulled off like world-class saves to keep us in the game, but he's not like tipping shots over the bar. He got away with a couple against Atletico Madrid, to be fair, when Alcaraz should have scored. But other than that, it's like over my dead body stuff. And that's why, as you said there, it's like 3 goals we've conceded all season in 13 games, which is like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, how much, like you said, you played in a team where there was a huge onus on defending, and you were playing in midfield, and then obviously you had the strikers. How much work did you guys have to do on the training ground under George Graham to work on that defensive solidity? And how much do you think, I guess, this Arsenal side will be doing it?
We knew what we was doing every train. We knew what we was doing Monday. We knew what we was doing Tuesday. We knew what we was doing Tuesday because
you were out. Yeah,
exactly. But we worked hard like Monday. Worked hard Tuesday. We knew what shadow play we'd do on the Thursday, and then we'd have like practice game. Then we'd do our set pieces, and then same thing on like Friday, a few set pieces. So we worked like very robotic. We knew what we was doing in free play and on set pieces. And if you didn't work your socks off, if you was playing in the wide areas, and you didn't come back, because our back four, obviously the famous Arsenal back four, right, with like Dicko, Tony Adams, Baldy, and Nigel Winterburn, they were brilliant, but they got protected. All of them. If you look at they all played over 450 games for Arsenal. And George Graham used to say to them, even in the era I played in, where it was even more physical now, if you're protected, you should be playing 450, 500 games because you get protected. I remember Paul Merson, we used to do a closing down session where it was 5 against 2. So 2 had to go close down 5. And if you did it properly, you'd win the ball back. And George Graham said to Merce once, Merce, you've jogged a go. And Merce laughed. He went, oh. And Merce was the gaffer's, we used to call him Soggy, son of George, right? He was his favourite. Merce didn't play for 2.5 months.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Didn't play for 2.5 months. Oof. Dropped him. Because that was in training that he wasn't intense. Arteta will be exactly the same, without wanting your players to get injured, but it will be intense, and they'll do the same drills day in, day out. They'll do shadow play where the back four will play against 6 or 7, and you have to be obviously well drilled, or maybe with a midfield player in front of you. So it's a whole team collective, even though the back four are very, very well structured. And if you have Timber, Calafiori, Saliba and Gabriel, 3 out of them 4 are 6'2", 6'3". That's some wall to try and get through.
Yeah, and then Arteta loves a 6'+ player.
Well, if you've got Ben Whiteling in there, they're all over 6 foot.
Yeah. It's almost like he's got a dating profile. You know what I mean? Must be over 6 foot. Just in terms of discipline though, James, and how well drilled this Arsenal team are, would you say we are the best in the Premier League?
From a work rate perspective, yeah. Probably when you look at the clean sheets and the results we get sometimes away from home as well. What was that record about not losing to a traditional Big Six side for so long? That shows you're doing something right. I mean, it's so interesting listening to you there, Perry, because I'm thinking the players must have loved doing all that. You don't buy into the defending if you don't enjoy...
We were scared of George.
Fair enough.
He was the dictator, trust me. We were it was fear. You had to do it, but also it's fear, but you want... The thing this team, you want to stay in the team.
Yeah.
You don't want to give the manager an excuse to get you out.
But in game, is there a sense of like an enjoyment of like dig deep? All right, come on, we're all getting through this together. That sense, because I do imagine that it takes one person to not be bought into it, right? And it can kind of all collapse. That's what they say about shape. If one person doesn't press, the whole press kind of collapses. Was there a sense of a collective? We're all in this. 20 minutes. Let's kind of get through it in game in particular.
Well, the thing is, this team's got good camaraderie, you can tell, good team spirit. You don't want to let your teammates down.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one who switches off. Because it's going to happen. Because you're human. Some players, you lose concentration and you will concede a goal because someone's hasn't tracked a runner or they haven't stayed with the marker, whatever. But you don't want to let your teammates down. You don't want to be the one. Because we knew we were going to get like a volley from like the gaffer if we did. Yeah. But you do, and you get this... our reputation, this team's reputation is building and building and building and growing. And if you score, as I said, 9 times out of 10 you're going to go and win the game.
Yeah. And
then you can go and kick on because the other team then loses concentration and they lose that little belief.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking then about, obviously, when you were playing, you didn't want to be dropped. No player wants to be dropped or, replaced in the team. But this Arsenal squad and the depth that we have, even if you play well, I think to keep everybody happy, Arteta's going to have a rotation system in place.
He's not bothered about keeping everybody happy.
You don't think at all?
No, absolutely not. He'll do what he thinks is best for the team in that, like
that moment.
Yeah, when Lewis Kelly comes in against Atletico Madrid, Calafiore's been off the scale. He gets left out.
So why do you think that happened then?
Well, because that game you wanted Lewis Kelly, probably thought he was better in possession, even though Calafiore can do it, and he gives you probably a more physical threat going forward. He knew that he wanted Lewis Kelly going in to get control of the midfield area, which we did, and then Lewis Kelly, and then he pirouettes, gets Martinelli's sort of assist. So he'll deal with players. Players, if you're not playing, you go and knock on the manager's door and have a chat. He'll tell you why. I used to go and see George Graham if I dropped, Mercer sat him, and he'd go, "You got a point. I 100% see what you're saying, but I'm the manager.
Yeah.
You ain't playing. See you later."
In a way, it's kind of easier at the moment for Mikel because there's a few absentees, you know what I mean? So he's not having to make tough decisions, but they will come further down the track. You know, when we've got a fully fit squad, hopefully at some point we'll have a fully fit squad anyway. It's going to be tough to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, because we're filling out 9 on the bench, and we're filling it out already. And that, I think Dalman might have been the spare man. There's excitement around him, but luckily there's so many players in this position that there's no pressure necessarily. But yeah, I mean, so what we're talking, Madueke, Ødegaard, Jesus and Havertz all to return. And Jesus is the one who's actually very different to the other two strikers we got. If there's something you can get out of him for 4 or 5 months, Arteta will want to do that because he likes having options. It's going to become difficult. I don't think it's going to be necessarily leaving players out the 11. I think it's the squad. I think it's when people then start to... I've never been a footballer. You can tell me what that's like. But I can imagine there's a difference between, all right, I'm on the bench, I appreciate the team are on great form, and I'm going to maybe play a part in some way, and then knowing you're not a part of that match day. Now, to be fair, you see them all in the tunnel at times, they're all part of it on the day, and Arteta actually is really about that, keeping everyone together. But I think that's maybe where it gets tricky, but it's a great problem to have. And it's not a problem Arteta's had probably his whole time at Arsenal. And respect, it's great for these youngsters and academy players, but we as fans going into Man United away don't want to see academy players on the bench. We do it's a part of our DNA, and if they're good enough, we want them to have the opportunity, and it's great for them. But not in a, we're trying to compete for the title, and we look at what Liverpool and City have brought to the party in terms of depth for many years. That will be a hurdle he crosses one day, but it's a very good problem to have.
We saw Pierre Nkapie play, actually, which was quite nice. Made his Premier League debut. A lot of people have wanted to see him for a little while. Arteta's claimed that the fans are going to love him. So what did you guys make? I know it was only a bit of a cameo, but what did you guys make of his performance?
I was surprised because you think Lewis Kelly's going to come on basically, didn't you? But then because again the physicality, he's like, no, you can come on, but not one Arsenal now when. We're making chat with we're impactors now, and they'll finish not something anymore. You just go, all right, he'll be all right. You don't go, oh, it's a drop off. And what I said before, people think it's you keep your level. You don't. You go up because the opposition are tired. So the quality that you're bringing on, there's tired legs and tired minds in opposition. So you actually that substitution gives you an advantage. So and Arteta's he's got our trust.
Yeah,
because this isn't just happened overnight. You know what I mean? This is his fifth, so he said it was a 5-season plan, didn't he, when he first came? And then the first 2 seasons we were 8th and 8th. Yeah. But he knew the culture weren't great. He had all that, to get rid of the deadwood and the big time charge, as I said before. Now you're looking at it, you just go, yeah, right, I get what you're doing there, Mikel. Yeah. Because the fans trust him.
Especially with defenders.
Yeah,
I mean, that record of defenders, again, I was just talking about the era of Arsenal I grew up on as a young boy watching the team, and respect to all of them who made it and played for the club, but the level of defenders we've got now available is just another level, and that's where there's real trust. So when Nkapie comes on, this is what I think Arteta's getting so right this season. They kept switching that ball out to Munoz, the fullback, or wing-backs, because they're really high and wide. They've got their back five, they get their wing-backs up. And so often Calafiore is having to get over and win that header. So you bring on the guy who's kind of closest to that. But then when you realise we're still stretched, cool, we'll move him to left centre-back, we'll go back 5 and get Lewis Kelly on. And it's just things like that I'm really enjoying from Arteta this season. Just really kind of catering to the opposition and using his squad really in a quite inventive way.
The thing is, well, at Palace, if you look at the second half, we went longer more.
Yeah.
I think it's 5% of long balls in the it was 15% second half.
Yeah.
Where you go, right, for Gyökeres, because then you can get them stretched. And then what you do is you create mayhem, and then you go and win the knockdowns. You go and win the little 50-50s. So there's that little other string to the bow.
Yeah.
But as I said before, there's going to be times where we concede, and then it's our reaction, obviously, like bouncing back. But I think there's an assurance about this team at the minute. I think, you know, even if we concede, there'll be no panic. It'll be all right. We can like calm down.
Newcastle.
It's exactly someone will get us out of trouble. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned there just about the 5-year plan. We're there now, aren't we, with Mikel, which is why I find it very strange, this kind of narrative. And I kind of get it, but you know, outside of Arsenal, this real kind of, oh, well, if Mikel doesn't win anything this year, you know, you're going to want him out, aren't you? And it feels like it's from rival fans and you know, rival supporters within the media who are really pushing that narrative. Because I'll tell you, as an Arsenal fan myself, and, you know, I don't speak for every Arsenal fan, but most that I speak to, I love Mikel Arteta. And there is no doubt in my mind that he is the man to carry on leading this club.
The thing is, as well, there has to be a story from somewhere. Do you know what I mean? To create like the pressure, because he'll put himself under more pressure than what's going on the outside, because he'll know that this is the time to take advantage. You know what I mean? This is, you know, football cyclical. So if we win the first one, I said you could easily go and win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. But also the narrative at the moment is, which wasn't Liverpool's last season, it's ours to lose. That's how the pressure's coming now. You know, after 9 games, you hear everybody, well, even it hates me to say it, you're even on Match of the Day. Well, it pains me to say it, but you've got to say, look, it's probably Arsenal's to lose. Danny Murphy's right sitting in. He's not as critical as us as quite a lot of other Arsenal haters, by the way. Danny's quite balanced. But, so the pressure now is, it's yours, you've won it. So they have to try and create pressure from somewhere, whereas I think this group of players are enjoying it. They're enjoying being where they are. They're not feeling the pressure because they're like, this is like Martin McCutcheon said, this is my moment now. And exactly, it is, because this is, they know, that's why Saliba signed his 5-year contract. Looks like Saka is the only one who's not on a long-term contract, because you can feel it. You can feel it and go, right, this is the time for us to take advantage. And in the end, you don't want to miss out. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to miss out on that.
Was there a particular moment in the season when you felt it? When you'd be like, was it October quite early on? You got a sense you've seen 10 games of everyone, or would it be around March with the run-in? Was there a moment where you went, okay, yeah, this is our moment?
Yeah, I think it was because we won the League Cup in '87. That gives you the taste that you want to win trophies. Then winning it in '89, obviously up at Anfield, where we'd had a 9-point lead at Christmas and we'd lost it. And if we'd have said football's sliding doors, if we hadn't won the title that year, we could have been accused of being bottlers because you lost the lead. But then it's the iconic game. But the 1990-91 season, when, again, now they call it recruitment. In the old days, we used to call it signings. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then it was like David Seaman, John Luke was a brilliant goalkeeper, but Dave Seaman was just a little bit better. He made all the difference. And as Zinzak come and took my place, he played on left wing, he made the difference. And Andy Linegan, people go, well, he didn't get in the side, but he made Steve Bold go onto a different level. Yeah. So even all these signings that you have, even if the signings ain't in the side, what happens is the levels of the players already here has to go up, because you have to do that to keep your place. And I think we just, that group, that 1991, I think when we looked around, and again, it was about the squad, even at the beginning of the season, we just thought we've got a real good chance here. Do you know what I mean? Because at the time it was Liverpool with the dominant side, and then we'd broken that fear factor against Liverpool, where we've broken the fear factor against Manchester City, because now we don't go in there and think, oh, we're going to run our legs off. That's gone. I don't think there's a fit. The Newcastle, obviously, that was a hoodoo. That one's gone. Yeah. Liverpool, I thought we was good in the game, and you get beaten by a worldy free kick. So, I think this team is just about that belief, and there's a collective belief now. Do you know what I mean? And that becomes very powerful.
Well, speaking of Liverpool and Manchester City, bad weekend for them, which is a great weekend for us. James, a really big drop-off for Liverpool in the last month. So who do you expect our main title challengers to be then? Do you still think it's going to be Liverpool? Do you think they're going to regroup and come back?
This is so tough. You're talking about the champions versus the 4 out of 5 times winners, and Pep Guardiola, and he's actually got 6 of them anyway. So the best player out of the two is in the two teams is Erling Haaland. He's doing his thing at the moment. But you don't write off Isak, Salah, Van Dijk, all them clicking. City look the most balanced team, but I rate Liverpool's players a bit more. I think they've just got a bit more firepower, even though Haaland's over there. I'm genuinely torn. I really, because I was answering this question as well, chatting to some mates. I don't know. I really thought Liverpool at the start of the season, I didn't see enough evolution from City and Pep Guardiola in terms of their signings. But then they've been on a nice little run. Okay, they lost at Villa. That can happen. I actually edge towards City because Liverpool's, you lose 4 in a row. That is really bad. Whereas City have had more blips, but actually largely put some results together. I'll go for City, but
you're not happy about picking.
It's a strange
it's
one,
difficult, isn't it?
Because I know it's Man City and it's Pep Guardiola, but they've sort of gone under the radar a little bit because since we battered them 5-1, I didn't realise they had the most clean sheets from that period of time until this weekend. And you go, oh right, the Man City clean sheets. That wouldn't have sprung to mind. But I was at the game. I was at the Villa game, and Aston Villa enjoyed playing against Man City. They didn't do the Sean Dyche when they come to Emirates and went 4-4-2, like you break us down. They had Reinders playing as the holder, and he's not used to playing there. Morgan Rogers was on fire. He was flicking it around, and they were enjoying playing against Man City. If you want to win the title, you can't have teams enjoy playing against you.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? And they were getting through a little bit. Aston Villa were the better side in the first half. Man City come back in second half. But if you said about Erling Haaland, the next top goal scorer to Erling Haaland is own goals with 2 and Phil Foden with 2.
Wow.
So if he goes through, I'm not saying he's going to go for a drought, but a drought for him is not scoring on Sunday against Aston Villa. But it's a heavy reliance on Erling Haaland. Do you know what I mean? So if he goes for a little dip or he gets injured, Liverpool can't get any worse. They can't get any, the results can't get any worse. They can't keep losing. But I think there's a hunger that's gone from Liverpool. If you notice in the Brentford game, if you notice when Schade scores, you look at Konate, doesn't really look like he wants to run back. Looks like he's running on quicksand. Virgil van Dijk doesn't look like, you know what I mean? That urgency where you lose that intensity. It's very difficult to get that back again. It's all about hunger. Do you know what I mean? For Pep Guardiola to have hunger that he's had for a 10-year period is ridiculous. But I think the hunger's gone from Liverpool players. I think that's very difficult to get that back in again.
That's a bizarre statement to make. I would have thought that they would be starving still, because the City drop off last season, they won it. They've never back to the Premier League and all of that. I would have thought they would have been really desperate to do that, and I'm sure they are. But to say you think they've lost the hunger is quite a bold statement. But that's what we like. That's why you're on the show, Pell.
It's only do it. Just go with your eyes. Don't worry about the logarithms. Just go with your eyes.
Right. Okay. The eye test. Right, it's another double game week for us this week, of course. We've got Brighton in the League Cup tomorrow, and then we head to Burnley in the Premier League on the weekend. James, we're of course expecting some changes for tomorrow night. Who do you want to see get some minutes and maybe push for Premier League starting berth?
Yeah, I thought Ben White looked really good in pre-season, so it's a shame he got injured. And Tim has been sensational, by the way. I think White's going to have to do a lot to win that place back. But I think there's a great player in Ben White, and I hope he looks sharp on Wednesday night. The question for Arteta is how much does he rotate?
Everything.
You think the whole 11?
The whole lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it though.
They don't. He normally goes half and half, like half and half scarf. He goes half and half teams. I'm like, don't want to see any of them. Honestly.
Really?
No, don't want to see any of them.
Do you think we kind of need the trophy? Is that,
No, I'm not saying that, we're getting snobbish about the League Cup. What I'm saying is there's going to be niggling injuries. So basically, you could make a case for having 10 changes. The only place where you go, well, who's going to play up front? Well, you could play Mourinho up front, couldn't you? You could have Norgard coming in, sitting as the holder. Obviously, Nkappi is going to want minutes. You're going to have Mosquera who needs a minute. Ben White needs a minute. Kepa needs a run out in goal.
Yeah.
So I want 10. Go on. Everybody else go and sit in your Winnebagos. Get your silk robe on.
Yeah,
but shouldn't we be fighting on all fronts? Have you seen just going for everything?
But you've just mentioned about the strength of our squad.
Yeah, you're right.
So even if you make 10 changes, I'm not saying that level drops because we're saying that everybody's on the same level.
But when players aren't playing together regularly, it's one thing making 10 changes to play. No disrespect to any team, but Port Vale. versus, Premier League opposition.
He went quite strong for Port Vale. But
that was half and half. You did that with Saka doing play.
Yeah, Eze, Saka, No, you're right. It's a bit of a litmus test, isn't it, for how much we actually trust the squad. It's easy for me to sit with the microphone and go, what a great squad. It's like, all right, well, do you want to make 10 changes for Bryce? Like, oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well...
Not one Arsenal fan at the game.
Yeah.
If Arteta made it, go, oh, no, I'm not happy with that. He's made 10 changes. There'll be, like, I don't want the players getting injured. But these other players need... minutes in their legs as well. Do you know what I mean? The players coming in need to play.
Yeah.
I think James, you made a good point though. You said, do we not need the trophy? I think is what you said. And I think a little bit earlier on, Perry, you mentioned winning the League Cup
in '87.
Yeah, and that gave you kind of the hunger and the belief for the following
The League Cup
season.
was actually a bigger trophy to win in that era because we weren't in Europe. Do you know what I mean? So you can only win the League Cup, FA Cup, or So that was more of a statement than winning the League Cup if you win it. Because I want to win it, right?
It's winning breeds breeding, though.
It does.
What am I trying to say? Winning breeds more winning.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. It does, but I am going to prioritise because we have to win the Champions League or the Premier League. That's because even if as a club, be great if we win the League Cup. Say I don't want to be snobbish about it because winning the trophy, but what it's going to be like even from the outside. It'd be it's only the League Cup. It's only the FA Cup. Arsenal should be aiming higher that. And I'll just say what I said before. Yeah. This squad need minutes anyway.
Winning the League Cup wouldn't change the narrative around Arsenal and Arteta, unfortunately. No. They'll go, well done, you've got a trophy, but is this really what it all came for? That would be the narrative online, which is a shame. I think there's so few trophies to win in football. I think you should enjoy them all. But I think you are, I agree, Perry, the way you put it there, which is like, others need minutes in the legs because you can't just kind of keep going with the same core 7 or 8 and then suddenly you need, I don't know, Nkapie to do a job for you for 5 games in a row because Calafiori and Gabriel have gone down. So you're right, ultimately it's a case of use the squad because actually we need to even for the other competitions. It's just going to be so interesting how he does it. So, there is the situation with Gyökeres up front. There's basically no one else who can play there. So you go Marino. But if you pull Marino out, well, one of Rice or Zubimendi starting with Norgard. So there'll be some decisions for Arteta to make there.
I think possibly, it's a hard call. Because of Zubimendi's yellow card in the Champions League, he might be more inclined to play Zubimendi.
Great
but,
point.
He's played a lot of games, so it's like, I just don't know.
Norgard will play.
Yeah, Norgard will play. Yeah.
So then you go, okay, Zubimendi, you have a little rest.
Right, okay.
And you can guarantee as well, the players that are coming in, sometimes at big clubs, because it's the League Cup or because it's FA Cup, they aren't as intense. But what you mentioned there, James, is a brilliant point. Now with the players that are coming back getting fit, you got to be bang at it to get yourself even on the bench, so you're the next cab on the rank to get back in the side. So the intensity levels of these players coming in ain't going to drop.
Yeah.
Just before we move on to Burnley, just in a word, because we're a little bit short on time, Dalman and Nwaneri, do you expect to see them against Brighton?
100%.
Yeah, Nwaneri to start, Dalman I think will come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Burnley, we're heading up to Turf Moor off the back of a big win against Crystal Palace and hopefully a win against Brighton in the League Cup as well. But it's a difficult place to go. It's not easy to go up to Burnley, to go to Turf Moor. How do you see this one turning out, James?
Yeah, it's not Company's Burnley, is it? Where we won 6-0, was it, I think? 5 or 6-0? When we were on that run of 5s and 6s.
Emptying stadiums.
Yeah. That was a great time, wasn't it? We enjoyed
West Ham 5.
Yeah.
6, wasn't it? I think it was
6 at West Ham, I think 5 at Burnley, 6 at Sheffield. Yeah,
that was great.
That was a good run. Yeah, we weren't boring then, were we? But anyway, how do I see this? I see them being stubborn. I see them being difficult to break down. I thought they did really well against Liverpool, and obviously it was just a bit of a moment that got them the win with the penalty. It'll be tricky, but we've got moments players that can find a way, whether it's Trossard right place, right time, whether it's Gyökeres giving us another option up front, whether it's Eze on the edge of the box. So I actually don't think Eze played that well against Palace. He did okay, but there were some frustrating moments. But he's got the composure in front of goal to pull out that finish. So it might be, again, a bit of a moments game, maybe set pieces, a little bit of an ugly watch, maybe. But I'm okay with that because there's the context of every team you're playing and what they're throwing up at you and what you have to deal with. And Arsenal seem equipped to deal with pretty much everything at the moment. So hopefully we see great scintillating football. An early goal might bring that, but it might become tough and we resort to what we've been doing physically, which has worked.
It's going to be attritional
Yeah.
You know, this is a different Burnley under Scott Parker because these are like physical players. But it's going to be. I think it's going to pan out. In the end, it'll be a 4v defence. It'll be like Burnley obviously sitting in, even though they're at home, being difficult to break down. Us having to be a little bit patient. But again, it's all about attitude. And it doesn't bother me. I mean, if early goal's great, it settles everything. If you get in 0-0, what you can't do is you can't concede the first one because that gives them the whole crowd at Turf Moor, gives them that little bit more sort of passion and energy that then transmits itself to the players. So it wouldn't bother me if we got in at 0-0. If we get going 0-0 at half time, we go, all right, yeah, we've quietened the crowd down, we're all right. Now it's time to kick on. But as James said, Burnley are very good at home. I think it's the only defeat they've had, isn't it, against Liverpool at home in the Premier League.
What about 0-0 at full time?
What's that?
Would you take that?
Oh no, that's meltdown time there. No, that's complete meltdown time. Because again, it's to put yourself in the position you're in, you have to take full advantage. And everybody from the outside will be going, it's a routine win. You know, on paper it looks very simple, but you know, in the Premier League, it ain't that straightforward.
Anything can happen. A red card, you know, a player slips, catches another.
You know, no one's mentioned it. You had to say it. We'll say that for
we've had a few dodgy ones, you know.
We have, you know, anything can happen in a game of football. I just think you're right. Don't go 1-0 down because then that pressure to get that next goal is not just high because you're looking for an equaliser, but almost every move, every pass feels more calculated. Well, don't give it away. This better not go out for a goal kick. Or if I shoot and I get it wrong, well, that's another 2 minutes off the clock. Yeah. Everything is more weight to it. That's what I think we did well against Palace. We actually recognised we were struggling, but we didn't open up to the point of suddenly they're having joy against our goal. This is going to be awkward, I think. But I trust that we've got the tools to find a way.
Okay, well, it's the moment that I'm sure you've both been dreading, predictions.
Oh, great.
And I've got to say, you know, I'm not trying to say that I'm the oracle or anything, but last week I did predict a 1-0 victory against
that was the only score that was left.
I could have went 4-0.
I said 2-0.
I could have said 2-1.
I said 3-0, there was a 2-0, and you went, all right, 1-0.
Yeah, but I could have went 2-1. I mean, no one scores against us.
We don't concede, exactly, yeah.
No, fair.
And I predicted the Olympiacos score correctly a couple of weeks back as well. So, you know, but I won't go first. I will let you two.
No, I think you should go first.
Oh, really?
That's the point, yeah, because you always have the score, it's only the one that's left.
Well, you know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go for that big fat 1-0 to the Arsenal once again. Big Gabby with another set-piece goal.
I'm going to go 2-0. I think we might just nick another goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going 3.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
3-0. I think it will be attritional first half hour. Then if we nick one, and then what happens is hopefully then the energy again just abates from like the Burnley players, and you might be able with the impactors coming on.
It'd be nice to see Gyökeres get on the score sheet.
Yeah.
The thing is, it could suit him being away from home as well. Do you know what I mean? You might have that little bit sort of more space, even though I think it'll be forward defence. And he's used to playing in the Championship. He's used to these sort of games. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if he's going to be going, oh, don't fancy it, it's freezing cold and the pitch is a bit bobbly and they've kept it dry, we ain't watered it, so the game slows down. Ain't going to bother him.
Yeah. All right, that is all we have got time for on Inside Gooners this week. Thank you to our senior pro, Perry Groves, and making his debut, of course, James Bayliss. Fantastic debut performance,
Jimmy.
mate.
I really
well
appreciate
done.
it, thank you.
And thank you, of course, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Gunners!
Ooh to be, Gooner.